Blog Talk Radio.
And in those days there were giants in the land, and the sons of the angels of God looked upon the daughters of men and found them fair, and took of them wives, and their sons became of old great men of renown. So they have been mixing with us on a genetic level since the time of Enoch and Ezekiel's will.
Here on Earth we're intrigued by the sun, moon, and stars, and imagine there's got to be planets like ours. Some conceive of a face on the surface of Mars, so in need of a meaning and purpose we lost. That indeed they believe that these might be our gods, or that maybe with time we'll do right and evolve and eventually reach what they seek and then solve all the problems of man. But they really don't know that they fall in the works of our hands are but just filthy rags. So we travel the lands to dig up our past. Time elapses and with it are much of the facts. Some imagine that God came in alien craft. They react in this way, they're so desperate for meaning and purpose, but satanic service, they know that they have evil motives. Am I making you nervous? I'm just scratching the surface. The signs from Ezekiel's wheel, when the skies unfold like scrolls and the breaking of seals. Heed the warning, the message is clear. Heed the warning, the time draws near. See the signs from Ezekiel's wheel, when the skies unfold like scrolls and the breaking of seals. Heed the warning, the message is clear. Heed the warning, the time draws near. In the blink of an eye, all believers will be raptured. Anyone left receives a mark or they're captured. This leader will arise, claim his origins are alien, possessed by Satan on the side of the Nephilim. Profess those who left held us back from evolving, and now that they're gone, we'll solve all of Earth's problems. The worship of any one God will be halted. Evolving to gods and ourselves be exalted. They'll play on these lines, and in time they'll devise and arrive at a plan that will help hypnotize all the ones left behind, the spiritually blind. He's stolen their souls, now he's stealing their minds. It's already started, we're seeing the signs. Just study the word, prophecies all aligned. Now chop off the heads of all those who fight at one earth, one world. Aren't you excited? The signs from Ezekiel's wheel, when the skies unfold like scrolls and the breaking of seals. Heed the warning, the message is clear. Heed the warning, the time draws near. See the signs from Ezekiel's wheel, when the skies unfold like scrolls and the breaking of seals. Heed the warning, the message is clear. Heed the warning, the time draws near. Where will you be in the year 2012? Are they casting a spell they're not ready to tell? It's time to reveal what they tried to keep veiled. Pure evil they hail and they sell it so well. He fell from the heavenly realms where he dwelled, a once beautiful angel that tried to rebel. Expelled from the light into darkness and hell, now a serpent and snake with reptilian scale. He wears a disguise with angelic wings and mimics the truth with a lie so obscene. He always repeats the same thing he told Eve, that you'll be supreme, a king or a queen, that you can evolve to an enlightened being, a god of your own that can do anything. He feeds on our souls with this fraudulent scheme in so many ways, but it's all just the same. See the signs from Ezekiel's wheel, when the skies unfold like scrolls and the breaking of seals. Heed the warning, the message is clear. Heed the warning, the time draws near. See the signs from Ezekiel's wheel, when the skies unfold like scrolls and the breaking of seals. Heed the warning, the message is clear. Heed the warning, the time draws near.
Why hide yourself with, creating UFO crafts and things like that? Why that deception if that's indeed what's going on?
The creatures figured out that there was one way that they could frighten mankind, and that is to present themselves as technologically superior beings, some physical UFOs.
Why would they want to abduct human beings?
UFO abduction might not be caused by physical occupants, but from creatures living in perhaps what we would call another dimension.
Posing as occupancy.
Yes, the same type of interfering, harassing, paraphysical creature in every culture worldwide.
Welcome, friends, readers, listeners, and viewers from wherever you may be tuning in, whichever part of the world, America or beyond. We appreciate your patronage. I'm Zen Garcia, your host. This is FallenAngels.tv, and we've got quite an interesting show lined up for you today. I'm going to be covering some more information which I have not heard about really covered anywhere else. And so hopefully this will be new to a lot of you, and it definitely fills in the pieces for those that are truth seekers and that have dedicated their lives to unfolding and unveiling the truth, no matter what it may be. Because, I still have people around me now that are waking up to, certain things. And like 9/11 is a really big one for a lot of people. And for a lot of people also, like I was speaking with somebody today that had just recently woken up to this stuff, and he was impressing upon me how he wanted to share this information with everybody because he thought it was so crucial and critical for people in, waking up to what is really going on and where we're really at and what's really coming down the line. Because the New World Order and its plans, which have been elaborate, precise, and detailed, and have covered centuries. And that's if you just include the human component of the New World Order. And if we take it to the top and actually consider who is controlling, who is the eye at the top of the Illuminati pyramid, who is Lucifer, the light bringer, Prometheus that brought down fire, what the lightning bolt represents and symbolizes. The chapter in Luke where Christ said, I saw Satan as lightning fall from the heavens. And if you know the story, if you know the details of that story and what had happened prior to even our creation and human flesh and our incarnation as flesh beings, that you will understand that Lucifer, that the New World Order began in the moment when light and darkness was separated and Christ was brought into being as the light of the universe and given glory and dominion over all of creation, the unseen and seen worlds, because he's the one that brought everything into visibility. It was then that Lucifer rebelled and wanted to be as the Most High himself, and that was the beginning. That was the war in heaven. That was the beginning of the enmity that led to our incarnating into the flesh, with some being of the seed of the woman and the others being of the seed of the serpent. That in this flesh form, in this flesh world, this second world age where we would live as physical, material, carnal beings, spiritual beings still, but yet trapped in carnal flesh, that it would be this lifetime and this place and this space and this time that would be a determining factor for those that would be a part of it. Because here we're on the final battle. If you've studied the Dead Sea Scrolls, you know about this one scroll that's a 7-part series that talks about the war between the sons of light and the sons of darkness, or what the Emerald Tablets of Thoth call the sons of the law and the sons of Belial. And we know that even in the Old Testament and the New Testament, there's references to Belial and the sons of Belial. And so if you are aware of these things, you know that there are 2 bloodlines on this planet, and that there has been war immemorial since the very beginning, even before humanity was created, and that humanity was in fact created to be a judgment and also to be chance and opportunity for those that did come into the flesh and live according to the word and to the commandments, and that would be resurrected to their salvation and eternal life, and to return to their first estate and a return to bright-natured immortality. I praise God and praise the Lord and pray that all of us be part of all that. That there was something prior to our entrance, our just, being lost here on this world, and that it didn't just begin with entrance into this flesh being, that the spirits that we are, the eternal spirits that we are, that harbor these bodies, that wear them as almost like armor, like we're wearing the armor of the soul. The body is the armor of the soul. And we have this one lifetime in the immortal journey of soul here in the flesh, that it would be in this plane and on this field that the harvest would take place, the judgment would take place, and that those on the left-hand side, the goats and the tares that have been warned against the seed of Adam since entrance into flesh form, that all those would be eradicated and the evil would be decimated, to no longer be allowed in this space, time, and being. So we've got that to look forward to. And another thing about salvation and eternal rest, because I know so many people are on the fence as far as living holy and living a sanctified life, that the most important thing you can do, and the most important thing for your soul and for spirit and for our whole reason for being here in flesh and on this planet now, is so that we uphold our honor and our allegiance and our commitment to Yahushua, to the Father and to the Son, and that we learn to be good servants, that we become foot washers to each other. That is the fullness of the law, that the Lord said that if you take no other gods before him, and to love each other as we love him, that's the fullness of the law right there. And everything else is reflected in that. And so basically the path of the priesthood, as I've said this in many shows, the path of the priesthood is the path of being a servant to your neighbor, to your brother, to your enemy, to every person that comes across your path. In whatever capacity they reach and touch your life, that you seek out in some way, whatever it may be, that you see that as an opportunity to assist them in whatever way you can, and not for the glorification of yourself or for the expectations of reward, but that you do this simply out of goodness sake and because it feels good to do good. That's what it's about. It feels good to do good. That's why we should, be good to each other. And so I'm hoping that we can all embrace that path. And I just want to thank and welcome all my friends there in the chat room. You've been a great support in my life. And I want to thank also Madeline Hacking. She just recently sent me the kindest email. And I've been receiving so many beautiful emails from so many kind people. I really appreciate all of you. And, I will do everything that I can to help out, to answer questions, whatever it is that I can do, I will do so. But just to let you know what I'm going to be going in today, I'm going to be covering the fullness of the story of Atlantis, and I'm going to be going back into the middle era of Atlantis, because Atlantis, from what I understand, seems to have existed as empire and as first world culture and civilization from when the Anunnaki came 455,000 years ago or so. But that Atlantis, as a high culture and civilization that was already rampant in evil, because the stories that I'm going to be covering, they talk about how these spiritual interdimensional beings got trapped into the flesh and started to live for the glory of working as Elohim in the physical form, and that a lot of them had abandoned their first estate, and that they started to seek out self-pleasure in their duty and work as part of the Morning Star administration. And then the fullness of evil was brought onto Atlantis. They were decadent in their lust and their carnal nature, in that they would even have open sex in the temples of worship, and that there were temple prostitutes there, male and female, to service whomever should need servicing. So, and I'll be covering the stories. I want to tell you first about a book called Mu Revealed, which I told you about before, and I'm going to put the link in the chat room, because this book is relatively cheap. You can get it for $1 or so. I mean, it's really interesting in that this particular information was deciphered in 1972, and it covers a collection of old Mayan texts, and that these texts give the story of a priest named Cleft, and that this particular priest, he wrote this diary account of his life, not only going to school and getting an education under the temple priesthood, and he was part of those privileged, of course, because they all have that divine right to rule, supported. But anyways, he gives us also interesting perspective into what was going on during the time of Atlantis, from like about 50,000 BC down to 13,000 BC, which was when it was finally done in. And we're talking about 3 major cataclysms. One happened during, I believe it was between 58,000 BC to 50,000 BC. And this destroyed a great part of that island continent and the culture and civilization that they had. But they rebuilt, and it also talks about it in this particular story that Clan talks about how they underwent these earthquakes and destruction that came up from underneath. And then how it was over the course of 6 days, that first there was earthquakes and destruction, then fire and brimstone, and then the floods and the seas and the tsunamis came and covered everything over. And then the land disappeared, but it was over a period of 6 days. And I'll cover some of these stories. I've not been able to find this book in PDF form, so I'm going to have to basically, tell you from memory what is relayed as an account in this particular tale. But if you should want to read it for yourself, it's very interesting. And also, one other thing that I have found of interest recently is this whole play on the word Mu, which is the original motherland, the original name for what was the first culture, first civilization. And it was also called Muror, M-U-R-O-R, is the name of this particular archipelagical empire during that time, Muror. And from that we get Mu. But another thing of interest to me that I just recently found is that, the Merovingians, that's also a play on that word Mu. And that they are holding, the Templars are supposedly holding their links also to this lost island culture. And thus the Merovingian kings. Okay, so that was of interest as well. But I'm going to continue with the last part of reading from Oahspe, which, for those that don't know, let me put that link in the chat room as well. I've been reading from this for the past couple days. And then today, I'm also going to cover some of the Emerald Tablets, because we have a lot of new listeners to the show, and the information in the Emerald Tablets is just absolutely mind-blowing. And for those that have never heard me read from them, I find them to be some of the most profound texts in explaining where we are, who we are, what we're dealing with as far as that whole Ephesians 6 powers, principalities, rulers of darkness, not of this world. Yeah, this gives a lot of insight into that. So we'll go ahead and continue with Oahspe. And also, if you have any questions, just put them in the chat room. I'll get to them. Jazz has a question here. On the sidebar, top pick pyramids on Mars. So you want me to tell you a little bit about the pyramids on Mars. Okay, the pyramids on Mars, and I've covered this from the Sumerian tablets because there's great information about the pyramids on Mars, and not only that, but the faith on Mars in the Lost Book of Enki. And I told the story of Alalu, who was the first exiled king. He was a king from Nibiru that when he was defeated in a wrestling match by Anu, who then assumed kingship, he thought that Anu would take his life, even though that was something that did not happen very often over there in Sumer. I mean, not in Sumer, on Nibiru, on the planet in Nibiru. And so he left, and he came to the Earth to discover the Earth and to find gold that his planet and his people needed to repair and restore the atmosphere on Nibiru. And so he successfully utilized what were called weapons of terror to smash massive openings through what is called the hammered bracelet or the asteroid belt, and that the hammered bracelet is where our Earth had once been. That, in fact, this planet used to be called Tiamat. In the ancient tongue, it was called Tiamat, or Rahab, Malbec. And Tiamat used to be a watery planet that was there where the asteroid belt was before the Lord utilized Nibiru to smash it and to gut it, to move it, and then to place it in the same place to create our Earth and where life began on this planet. Now, Alalu, when the other Anunnaki, when they came here to the planet to begin the operations for mining for gold, he challenged Anu again. And in a wrestling match, he actually, and it describes this in detail, after being defeated, it says that he bites off the manhood of Anu and swallows it. And this poisons his innards. And so he's going to die. And so judgment comes upon him, and they decide to exile him to what is called as Lamu, or Mars, what we know as Mars. And that the face on Mars is actually a representation of Alalu, who was exiled there and actually died there. And there was another guy, a guy named Anzu, another Niburian, that went with Alalu, stayed with him there on Mars until he died. And on the next swing through, the Anunnaki, as they were going to the Earth, they went by Mars, they found Anzu, brought him back into capacity, because he was almost dead. And then he relayed to them the story of how he had buried Anzu in this particular cave, took him to the body. They went there, they saw him, they, said kind of like a toast to him, first exiled Niburian king to die on a different world, something of that sort. And then they left, and they came to this particular planet. But as they were leaving, they utilized what were called laser beams to settle and to shape the mountains on Mars, which that's when they impressed upon the mountainside what was the face and the visage and the image of Alalu, who was the first Niburian king there to die on Mars. So I hope that gives you insight into that. Oh, yeah, okay, got to mention this as well. Sunita says there is an excellent video about the pyramids and buildings in Mars called Project Red Star. Yeah, this is done by, I believe, Stuart Best, and it is an incredible video. Because basically what Stuart does is he overlays this one image on Mars, and then he brings out all these shapes and images and verifies the industrial complexes, the buildings, the cities, the massive structures and complexes on Mars. And so you can check that out for yourself as well, because I know all this sounds totally lunatic fringe, that all these ancient texts and ancient writings and their mention of all this advanced culture and civilization, well, it's being confirmed. I mean, all of this is being confirmed. Even the megalithic structures that we find all across this world, not to mention on others, on Mars and the Moon, because we didn't build those. Even the ancient structures that we found here in the deserts of the South, the underground bases, the underground railway systems, all these things were done before modern humanity came into being. And so, continuing with the story, we're going to go into Oahspe. If you have any questions, put them in the chat room, and I'll get to it. All right, I want to start again from the Lord's first book. This is chapter 14 of the Lord's first book. This is from Oahspe, Oahspe. This is a book that was supposedly channeled in 1880. I give no credence to it. I'm not saying it's divine or inspired in any way. Simply reading it from it and giving you an opportunity to hear. Behold, I am not for one man only, nor for one woman, nor for one book. But wherever the light of wisdom and the desire for virtue and holy deeds shine, there will my speech manifest. Is not Jehovah wide as the universe and deeds shine and immutable? Is not Jehovah wide as the universe and immutable? And to be in harmony with him, is this not the sum of all wisdom? I would say so, yes. And to be in harmony with him, is this not the sum of all wisdom? Because if you're one with the Lord, you're good to go. You've got no worries, no cares, no concerns. Verse 15. Therefore, if thy Lord or thy God hath attained to be one with the Father, and he come in dominion on the earth with his millions of angels, who also know the higher light, and ye are inspired by them to do Jehovah's will, what discussion shall man have against heaven or its representatives? I declare freedom unto all men in Jehovah's name, but with freedom I also give the experience of the lords of the earth. Suffer therefore my prophets on all hands to embellish the pictures of the past in their own way, and as far as the pictures fortify faith in Jehovah and his works and his power and his glory. Be ye circumspect to desire nourishment therefrom, and rather than destroy that which is given in the name of Jehovah, go ye and fall to work in like manner to build up his light in your own way. Herein is wisdom. For they that strive for the light of my dominion shall receive my angels in my name. And by the words they find, to express my commandments shall they be known to be of me. So basically, those that do the work and the will of the Lord, they are the flock. They are his. They are the church, the ecclesia. All words came from the Lord your God. By him was man made upright on the earth. This is important. As the first race went down into the earth, the second man rose up by my angels, becoming like unto lords, and gods capable of knowing good and evil. This is an important passage because basically what it tells you and what it verifies is that first race, the primitive worker race, the Bigfoot-type race, they went into the earth. The civilized man, or what the Sumerians called the civilized man, this was the Adam that was given the breath of life, that was brought up by Yahweh, Elohim, and he is the one that has the connecting link with the Creator and has the capacity for salvation and eternal life. And that's us, people. That is us, and how blessed are we? All right, continuing. But as the light of a full-grown man differeth from that of a child, so in different degree was the light of men. And those with the higher light were called faithists, or ihens, because they perceived that wisdom shaped all things and ruled to the ultimate glory of the All One. But those of the lesser light were called Cain, the Druks, because their trust was more in corporeal than in spiritual things. So even this book, which, again, I had not even heard about it till a couple months ago. Got lucky and discovered it. But even this particular book puts the two seeds on the planet, calls them here the ihens, which we know as the Sethites or the Adamites, and the Cains. What does that tell you? If they're calling this other race the Cains or the Druks, those that had trust more in the corporeal than in spiritual things. It's the same thing. Genesis chapter 3, the enmity between the woman and the seed of the serpent. You've got the two different bloodlines at war here on this planet. And I'm finding this confirmed everywhere. I mean, it's not just this book. The Book of Enoch, the Pseudepigrapha, the Apocryphal, Nag Hammadi Codices, everything confirms this. And the faithists were also called the chosen people because they chose God, who is Lord over the corpore. But the Cainites, the Druks, were classed as enemies of the Lord because they sacrificed by means of war and death that which Jehovah made alive. And these two people have lived on the earth from the first and even to this day. That right there gives full confirmation to the whole premise and concept of my fourth book, my book, Lucifer, Father of Cain. Because I can't tell you how much flack I've got from writing that book and from sharing it. It's ridiculous. That's just one of the things I cover. That's just a small part of, full summation of so many other things that I cover. But for some reason, that is the one thing that seems to antagonize and bring out just bitterness in people. I just don't get it. But verse 21. And I, the Lord, Son of Jehovah, gave a certain commandment to man, saying, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy soul, thy wisdom and strength, but man had little strength in this matter. Neither did I ask for more than he could give. And another commandment was, Thou shalt not kill. That which had man obeyed, there had been no war in the world. See right there, if man would obey that one commandment, no war. In like manner I gave I the light of heaven unto all men. But my enemies perverted my words in order to justify themselves in sin. For the Father so dwelleth in man that man can judge of truth and holiness. For if one man saith, The Lord said, Thou shalt not kill, and yet another man saith, The Lord saith, Thou shalt kill, then shalt not any man mistake which is of the Lord. In fact, for the Lord maketh not alive any man whom he desireth shall be killed. Thus was my word perverted by man. And the little light which was not lost, man tried to obscure. Nevertheless, man multiplied and inhabited the earth over, building cities and nations, and prospering in certain seasons in all things earthly. But as I came to the earth to develop the soul of man chiefly, and for his own ultimate happiness in the ethereal worlds, I labored not with such as heeded me not, but suffered them to go on in their own conceit. And they became divided against one another, and war and pestilence and diverse diseases came upon mortals, resulting in their further downfall. And the spirits of those that denied me on earth still denied me in heaven. And their stubbornness and conceit continued to dwell with man on the earth, so that in the course of time the world was overrun by spirits of darkness, who knew not heaven. And it came to pass that my enemies slew my chosen on all hands. In 4 great divisions, remember I told you there were 4 divisions for the people of the earth? Here we have, again, further confirmation. In 4 great divisions of the earth, in Vohu, in Jud, in Thori, and in Dis, they left not one alive of the Ihin race. In Whaga, Pan, had I a remnant, and they were scattered far and near, and in separate places hiding away from their evil pursuers. Now this is interesting, this particular passage. Please pay close attention here, because this passage mirrors Genesis chapter 6 in our Holy Bible. But there were giants, Druks, in those days and in time after that. And my chosen came unto them, and they bare children to them also. And their flesh became corrupt, so that vermin inhabited them from the time of their birth to the time of death. And they became rotten in the head with catarrh, and in the throat with ulcers and running sores, and in the lungs and joints with the poison of death. And their offspring that was born unto them came forth afflicted with the sins of their fathers and mothers, to linger in misery or to die in infancy. And they thus peopled heaven with untimely births and with spirits of darkness, who in return came back and re-afflicted mortals. And I said, I will destroy man from the face of the earth, for the flesh of man is corrupt. For by the eating of flesh and unwise cohabitation hath he corrupted his race upon the earth. So, we are now up to the flood, and to the point where the sons of God took on to the daughters of man. And remember that according to the text, right before we arrived at this point, that Atlantis, the land of Whaga, Pan, that it was cut asunder and destroyed, decimated, and sank beneath the waves of the ocean by the Lord. So, all right, let's continue. Say ye unto my chosen, this is the word of the Lord your God. Ye have found favor in my sight. For ye alone of all that is on the earth have kept my commandments, and ye have seen righteousness in the seed of your generations. Go to, therefore, and build ships sufficient unto my chosen, and get ye within, where none can pursue or destroy. For behold, I will bring a flood of waters upon the earth, even above the highest mountains, for I will destroy the corruption thereof and purge it of all uncleanness. Take ye therefore of all the food that is good to eat, and gather it into the ships, for the food shall remain 150 days, and ye shall not come forth and find therewith to eat. And the angels of the Lord went to the faithless in God, and inspired them to build ships, both in the valleys and on the mountains. For 2 whole years builded they them, and then they were completed. The angels of heaven numbered the ships, and there were of them 138. And the ships stood on the mountains and in the valleys. Nowhere near the waters stood one of all the ships that had been built. And the earth stood in the ark of Noah, in the firmament of heaven, in the place and grade of 600, and the Aegean rose 24,000 years before Kosmon. And the Lord commanded the chosen to go into the ships, and they went in, and in the same day the gates of heaven and earth were opened. And the earth rocked to and fro. As a ship at sea, and the rains fell in torrents, and the loud thunderings came up from beneath the floor of the world. The sea came up on the land, first upon the valleys, and then upon the mountains, so that the ships floated on the waters. But the land was swallowed up, valleys and mountains, and all the living perished, save the eye hens who floated off in the ships. The Lord said, I numbered them that were saved, and there were 12,420, and these were all that remained of the first race of man that walked on 2 feet. Behold, I will carry them to all the divisions of the earth, and people it anew with the seed of my chosen. And Jehovah blew his breath upon the ships of his sons and daughters, and blew them about upon the ocean, and blew them to the east, west, north, and south. And by the will of God were the ships congregated into 4 fleets, 34 ships into each fleet, save 2 ships which were carried in a fleet of themselves. The Lord said, I will name the fleets of my chosen, and their names shall be everlasting on the earth. And the Lord named them Gautama, Shem, Japheth, Ham, and Yista. The Lord said, from these my seed will I people the earth over in all the divisions thereof. And that after generations, for thousands of years, may know the work of my hand. Behold, I give them a sign, which is my covenant to them and their heirs forever, which is my crescent in the form of a rainbow. And whatsoever people bear this, my sign, shall be a remembrance to me of my covenant, nor shall they be destroyed from the inheritance which I have given unto them. And the chosen looked out of their ships, and the sky was clearing, and a rainbow shone in the firmament, but the light thereof. The land was found, whither the Lord brought his people. And in 150 days from the beginning of the flood, the ships were brought into their respective places. And the Lord designed them, so landed they in the different countries of the world. This is interesting because this will tell you the 4 different divisions after the flood. The fleet named Gautama was carried to the eastward, and the country whither it landed was also called Gautama. The Lord said, from this place shall my chosen spread out north and south, but they shall not inhabit the lands to the east or west as far as the sea. For they shall be a testimony in time to come of this landing place from the continent of Pan. And God said, suffer my people to bestow names to the places whither I lead them. For these names shall show in the cosmon era the work of my hand done in this day. I got to make a comment here because I've also been reading lately a book from the Ashes of Angels, written by Andrew Collins, who does great, incredible, in-depth work into the various mythologies of the world, except he denies the supernatural nature of these Nakash beings. Even though he has looked into the detailed worship of the Nakash over many generations of time, and even talks about the fallen angels as being a people of their own, and how they were here before humanity. But he doesn't see it as a supernatural nature like in Ephesians 6, which is interesting. And I asked him about the Emerald Tablets, and he said that they were a fairy tale, which I don't necessarily agree with that, but all right. Verse 55. The fleet of the two ships carried to the north was named Yista, which in the Whaga tongue was Zapan. Okay, so one of them is going to Guatemala, wherever that is, and then the other ship is going to Zapan, or what we come to know as Japan, signifying relict of the continent of Pan, for it lay to the north where the land was cleaved in twain. So Japan used to be a part of what was the continent of Pan. And Zapan means a relict of the continent of Pan. So Japan, which is Zapan, is actually saying that Zapan used to be part of what was the motherland Muror. All right. And I'm going to tell you about the other divisions here, too. Oh, goodness. We're running out of time so fast. And the Lord said to them, Behold, 8 Hydan shall come, and ye shall be as a key to unlock the labors of heaven. For all people shall ye be reckoned the oldest in the world, and until I come and unlock the sea, ye shall remain in an exclusive people from all tribes and nations. Preserve ye, therefore, the names of my rites and ceremonies, and especially the names of the land and the water and the firmament above and the ships that plow the water and all the sounds, whatever that man maketh in the throat, and without the tongue and lips. For in the time of my glory on the earth, ye shall also be glorified. Preserve ye also peace and righteousness and industry, for ye shall be a testimony in the latter time of the presence of my hand and the great Spirit also. Thus was settled Japan, and it continueth to this day. The fleet named Japheth was driven to the westward and to the north, and to the country was called Japheth for thousands of years thereafter, and is the same as is called China to this day. So wherever they first went to Guatemala, and then they were sent here to name of this town, Japan. And then now Japheth is going to China. So the fleet named Shem landed to the south, and the country was called Shem for thousands of years afterward, and is the same as is called India to this day. So Japheth went to China, Shem went to India, and the fleet named Ham landed southwest. And the country was called the land of Ham for thousands of years, and is the same as is called today Egypt and Africa to this day, or what we know in the ancient language as the land of Chem, or the land of Cain. God said, behold, my chosen shall manifest many signs and wonders common to one another in these different divisions of the earth. They shall. Oh, this is what the Lord said. And this is also the experience of the mythology of Mu, because the Lord said that all this information would be preserved for our generation. And he's saying that here. He said, behold, my chosen shall manifest many signs and words common to one another in these different divisions of the earth. They shall remember the flood. They shall repudiate idols but worship the Great Spirit, Jehovah. They shall have the crescent. They shall have the triangle. And they shall preserve the 4 days of change of the moon as sacred days. And they shall be called mass or moon days. And they shall be circumcised. They shall remember the 7 tetrachs, Diba, the enticing evil, Ra, the flesh evil, Zimma, the joking evil, Belial, worthlessness, Avon, vanity, Anash, delight in destruction, and Satan, desire for leadership, which is the captain of death. I'm almost done with this, and then we're going to pick up on the other stuff. This is talking about the people of Mu, though. They shall have 3 great lights, or the all-highest God, Son of, or Lord Adonai, executor of heaven and earth. They shall have 3 less lights, God's angels, the lords, and the prophets and the rabbis. God said, now was the world of one language and of one speech, in all the places of my people spake they alike, man to man. Nevertheless, in all parts of the earth there live ground people. Now remember, I had told you about these primitive workers before the civilized man was given the spirit of life. And I said that these primitive workers were these Bigfoot type that had the long arms that went down to their knees, and they were fully haired and in red hair, depending on which climate that they had. They were Bigfoot type creatures. And in this book, it seems to give information to these, what are called the ground people, or the Druks, the Canaanites. Says this, nevertheless, in all parts of the earth there lived ground people who were black and brown and burrowed in the ground, and they had long arms and curved backs. And they were naked and not ashamed, for which reason they were called Druks. The Lord spake unto the chosen of the Ahin, saying, behold the earth, I give it to you to be yours forever. Mingle ye not with the Druks, for they are without understanding, and are not theirs to everlasting life. Now, many inquired of the Lord, saying, if these having no understanding be not heirs to everlasting life, how shall it be with our children who die in infancy? And the Lord said, this is a matter of the seed and not of learning. Whoever is born of my chosen shall inherit my everlasting kingdom. All right, this is chapter 2. It's just a little bit more mention of the land of Whaga, and then we'll move on. Chapter 2 of the Lord's first book. The Lord said, a wise physician amputated a diseased limb, and so preserveth the trunk to become healed. Saw I not the rankness of the tribes of darkness, the Druks, and that the proceedings of man would render the earth void? What is all the world if it bring not forth heirs in everlasting life? Behold, I saw that my chosen had become exterminated in all the divisions of the earth save Pan. And I saw they who had been their destroyers had in turn nearly exterminated even one another. And I saw that to bring the remnants of my people hither, they could again reestablish themselves and become the seed of a mighty people. But as for the land of Whaga, or Pan, it was already in the throes of death, and the Druks had become as a festering sore, and the spirits of the dead, tens of thousands and millions of them, would not quit their hold on mortals, whilst life was on the earth. And I sent my angels around about the whole earth, and gathered in the spirits of darkness, gathered them unto the land of Whaga. And when my work was in readiness, I raised up my hand as a surgeon that would top off a diseased limb. And I cleft asunder the continent of Pan, and sunk it beneath the waters. And my angels conducted my choice out of that land, and not one of them perished. I sent unto the guardian angels whom I had given to man, in the lands whither I take thy people, my people. Let them build mounds and walled cities with ladders to enter after the manner of the ancients, and all the divisions of the earth, alike and like shall they build. Take a pause here. Check the chat. All right. See if, let me check and see what questions y'all have. Okay, 1 second. I'm just reading what you posted. Okay, you were asking about the ships. All right. Now, I want to make correlation here as far as to this particular story. Now, we know in the Bible it says that only the seed of Noah was spared. And I'm not making any other claim otherwise, not because of this book or any other book. But it is interesting to me that the Sumerian tales also talk about a congregation of people that were, it was like a village that was spared. And it talks about that story. They call them Deucalion, Deucalion is the Greek name for Noah, I believe. His name is also Ziustra in Xiusdura. I believe this is according to the Egyptian Manethea. And he's also known in the Sumerian text as Utnapishtim. Utnapishtim is Noah's name in the Sumerian text. And both of those stories give an account of multiple people being spared. Now, I'm not saying either or, but all right, one other question here. Oh, I'm glad this is coming together for you. People are just saying that this actually makes sense to them. So, praise God. I hope that it does because, again, don't believe anything I say. Don't believe anything that I bring forth. Do your own homework. Research these things that I'm telling you about. Read them for yourself. Don't believe what I say or the way that I put all this together. This is my truth, my personal truth that comes from my personal relationship with the Father and the Son. So, okay, Rand has a question. Do we all have Cain blood because of the commingling? Good question, Rand. And how are we redeemed because of our belief in Christ? Oh, Rand, you get 5 gold stars for those 2 questions right there. Okay, I think this is a whole show in itself, but to do this quickly and to explain this so people can understand, because you have to know about the 2 bloodlines, and yes, we are tainted. If you go to Daniel, it talks about the clay mixed with the iron, the clay mixed with the miry iron. This is the seed of the serpent, or the fallen angels, intermixing with us, with humanity. And yes, we are corrupted. We are we're hybrid beings, and it's only because even the Lord told the people, the Hebrews and the Israelites, the Sethites, the Adamites, to not intermingle in with the seed of Cain or with the fallen angels. They still did it anyways. And in fact, by the time of Noah's day, according to the story in the book of Enoch and elsewhere, everyone had fallen away. All the children of Adam had fallen away to the sins of the children of Cain. And that they were all experiencing in lust and debauchery. And you can read about that in the 1st and 2nd book of Adam and Eve, which is part of the Forgotten Books of Eden, the Forbidden Books of the Bible series, which, if you have not read those texts, incredible story in that they give insight into Mary and who she was, and how she became the receptacle for the birth of Christ, the Immaculate Conception of Christ. And it gives the story of verification of Mary being a virgin before and after birth, and that she was a 14-year-old virgin at the time that she conceived Christ, and that she never, ever had sex or married anybody else. She was with Joseph, who had already fathered a family, and he was an elderly gentleman. And in fact, he did not even want to be betrothed to Mary, but that's why the Lord chose him. And so he was more a caregiver, a caretaker, than he was a husband or a lover. So read those stories. They're really incredible. Okay, so now as far as the redemption that comes through our belief in Christ. Now, if you understand about the 2 bloodlines, and you take this to the flood of Noah's day, what happened after the flood of Noah's day? Noah and his sons are brought in and given the entirety of the earth, told to multiply, to replant, and to repopulate the planet. And they did so. And they did so in righteousness. But according to the word, there were giants in the land before the flood and after. And after the flood, it was the seed of Ham, specifically through the line of Canaan, whom Canaan was a 4th-born son of Ham and Noah's wife, who I am going to say was Nama, according to the book of Jasher. It also says that she was Emzara somewhere else. I think that's in the book of Jubilees. But it says specifically that Noah did not want to marry, did not want to bring evil children into the world. The Lord told him that he was going to spare him and to have children. He did. The Lord also told him to take Nama for his wife, who was the sister of Tubal-Cain from the line of Cain. And so, in fact, it was Tubal-Cain that was killed when he was out hunting with his grandfather Lamech. And when Lamech had killed Cain, he then clapped his hands and he killed his young grandson. And then he went back and told his wife Zillah and I forget the other one's name. But he told his 2 wives that he had killed and wounded a child. Yes, Jazz says that the Book of Jubilees also says that Satan was able to keep 10% of his Watcher workers here to bring and rule in evil, and he did. It was only at Noah's beckon that the Lord removed so much evil from the planet, so that we would have a chance to come up in righteousness. And so, after the flood of Noah's day, then you have, you come up to Abraham, and Abraham being taken out of Ur. His father was the high priest Terah for Sumer. He was taken out of Ur, led into the land of Canaan again, and that his generations would, inherit this land. And then you fast forward to Moses, who was the Hebrew that led the people out of enslavement from Egypt and out of the idolatry and the paganism of Egypt. And what happened? The Lord led him into the wilderness, eradicated the evil among his people, and then once they were a pure people and a pure seed, he anointed Joshua and Caleb and sent the people into the land of Canaan, where the Hamites were, the Canaanites that had taken up residence and mating with the fallen angels, because that's what they did after the flood. It talks about in the Book of Jubilees how they found the old writings of the Watcher and started to worship them and brought forth the old knowledge. And after they did so, the Watchers came to them and mated with them. And that's why you have there in Philistine, also in Gaza, you have the remnants of the Goliath, the children of Goliath, or the children of Og of Bashan, because that was his lineage and his line. And so Christ, as has been done by the flood and by Moses and by the Lord sending the people into the land of Canaan and telling them to spare no man, woman, or child, to eradicate all seed, even sometimes the seed of the animals, because they were all hybrid beings and they were giants. That he told them to spare no man, woman, or child. The Lord was at war with this bloodline. He wanted to eradicate it. He even implored Israel not to wait, not to give up and to stop, because he foresaw it and then even told it to Moses, who told it to his people, how they would assimilate and marry into and bring into those people into their line, and how they would become tainted because of it. That was also, if you remember, when the Lord brought his people out of Babylon, and he forced all the Hebrew people to leave their foreign wives behind. Same thing. The Lord, for the longest time, was trying to keep the people pure, trying to keep them from soiling themselves with the tainted hybrid seed of the Canaanites that everywhere surrounded them. But they did not do so. They did not preserve themselves in righteousness. They fell away left and right, as we are fallen away today. And because we don't listen, and we're so stubborn and think we know best, we find ourselves in exactly the same situation as we have been in so many times previously in our past, when the Lord has given us chance, given us warning, given us prophecy, spoken through his apostles and prophets and seers and seekers, but we don't listen. And that's the hard part about being human. All right. So, we've got just a little bit of time. Let me catch you up on this story here, and then we'll go into some of this emerald tablets, because, like I said, the emerald tablets are just mind-blowing. I want to talk about a little bit about the Edgar Cayce commentary on Atlantis, which there's an extensive amount of it. And I have not read all of it, so I can't, give a detailed commentary on the extent of the work, because I have not read all of it. But from what I have read, it seems to give verification to all of the other ancient sources that I've read from. And so those are another source that people might want to look into. And again, I don't agree with all of the teachings of Edgar Cayce, especially all the teachings on reincarnation, because I don't teach that at all. I teach incarnation. We come into the flesh once. To do otherwise is to negate judgment and salvation, and the whole reason why Christ had to come into the flesh, because he is the authority of eternal life. It was his coming to the flesh to live a perfect life, a sinless life, that showed to us, example to us, verified to us, proved to us that not only was he the Son of God, and that he was God in flesh, but that he trumped death, and that he also surpassed the authority of Satan, the authority of hell and Sheol to hold your soul. Because when Christ died on the cross, in those 3 days that he was gone, he descended down into hell and broke open the gates of brass. And he went down there to free the patriarchs from Adam and all the way to the thief that died on the cross. All the people that had died previously. Meaning to me that the Gospel of Nicodemus and the Gospel of Bartholomew, both of these books verify Christ's descent into hell. That both of them give you the story which verifies all these things that I'm telling you. And so that's why Christ had to come into the flesh. It's because the fallen angels have been at every instance manipulating, cohabitating with, genetically engineering, and manipulating the DNA and the gene pool of humanity in such a way that they brought eternal judgment and condemnation upon themselves. That's the kind of evil we're talking about. That's the kind of judgment that is coming upon them for the kind of evil that they did. Total eradication from existence, and a total that's the most complete sentence you could pass upon somebody if you were God, is just total oblivion. No chance or part in existence. Ooh, that would be terrible. All right, I'm going to check the chat room one more time, and then I'm going to go into this. Okay, Rand says this. The Bible says, it is appointed unto man once to die, then the judgment. We don't get multiple chances of lifetimes. I fully agree with you, Rand, and that's the only thing that I disagree with as far as Cayce and the reincarnation and all that cycling through lifetimes. And I don't see it that way. I see the one spiritual life that we lived as first world age beings. I see our incarnation into the flesh and living it out in this lifetime, and then harvest, judgment. So, which is exactly what the Word tells us, what Christ tells us, all the, it's all there. So, all right, let's go into this text. Give me just a minute to get to where I need to be. I'm going to go into my favorite chapter, which is just so deeply filled with information. Well, actually, this whole book, I've got so many parts that are my most favorite chapters, but I'll go ahead and get into this one, which gives a little bit of reference. This is from chapter 5, or tablet number 5. And this is just to give you a little bit of insight into Atlantis and that whole prior times. Light there was in ancient Atlantis. Yes, darkness too was hidden in all. Fell from the light into the darkness some who had risen to heights among men. Proud they became because of their knowledge. Proud were they of their place among men. Deep delved they into the forbidden, opened the gateway that led to below. Sought they to gain ever more knowledge, but seeking to bring it up from below. He who descends below must have balance, else he is bound by lack of our light. Opened they then by their knowledge pathways forbidden to man. But in his temple, all-seeing, the dweller lay in his Agwanti, which through Atlantis his soul roamed free. He saw the Atlanteans by their magic opening the gateway that would bring to earth a great woe. And fast fled his soul then back to his body. Up he arose from his Agwanti, called he the three mighty messengers, gave the commands that shattered the world. Deep beneath the earth's crust to the halls of Amente swiftly descended the dweller. Called he then on the powers of the seven lords, wielded, changed the earth's balance, and down sank Atlantis beneath the dark waters. Shattered the gateway that had been opened, shattered the doorway that led down below. All of the islands were shattered except Unal, and part of the island of the sons of the dweller. Preserved he them to be the teachers, lights on the path for those to come after, lights for the lesser children of men. Called he then, I thought, before him, and gave me commands for all I should do, saying, Take thou, O thought, all of your wisdom, take all your records, take all your magic, and go thou forth, preserving the records until in time light grows among men. Light shalt thou be all through the ages, hidden yet found by enlightened men. Over all earth give we ye power. Free thou to give or take it away. Gather thou now the sons of Atlantis, take them and flee to the people of the rock caves. Fly to the land of the children of Chem. Then gathered I the sons of Atlantis, and to the spaceship I brought all my records. Brought the records of sunken Atlantis, gathered I all of my powers, instruments, many of mighty magic. And up then we rose on the wings of the morning. High we arose above the temple, leaving behind the three and the dweller. Deep in the halls beneath the temple, down beneath the waves sank the great temple. closing the pathway to the lords of the cycles. Yet ever to him who has knowing, open shall be the path to Amente. Fast fled we then on the wings of the morning, fled to the land of the children of Chem. There by my power I conquered and ruled them, raised to light the children of Chem. Deep beneath the rocks I buried my spaceship, waiting the time when man might be free. Over the spaceship erected a marker in the form of a lion, yet like unto man. And there beneath the image rests yet my spaceship, forth to be brought when need shall arise. Know ye, O man, that far in the future invaders shall come forth from out of the deep. Then awake, ye who have wisdom, bring forth my ship, and conquer with ease. Deep beneath the image lies my secret. Search and find in the pyramid I built. Each to the other is the keystone, each the gateway that leads into life. Follow the key I leave behind me. Seek, and the doorway to life shall be thine. Seek thou in my pyramid deep in the passage that ends in a wall. Use thou the key of the seven, and open to thee the pathway will fall. Now unto thee I have given my wisdom, now unto thee I have given my way. Follow the pathway, solve thou my secrets, unto thee I have shown the way. All right, I want to stop here. This is just one tablet. One tablet of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. In this particular tablet, it gives you the perspective that they started to get into deep magic that they were forbidden from, that they started to open up stargates and pathways forbidden to man, and that for such doing, Atlantis was destroyed and taken down beneath the waves. And so in the show that I did prior to this, I covered all of that information from the Book of Oahspe. Now, I would go and listen to the previous shows I've done on the Emerald Tablets, correlate them with the teachings that I'm bringing forth from the Book of Oahspe, and then tie those together with those teachings that I brought forth from the Coleman Bible. And you'll start to get a very clear picture of how it is we got to be where we are. And also, which is important, also you'll begin to understand that this world was peopled by the fallen angels and their primitive workers prior to the creation of modern-day humanity, which was given the breath of life and a chance for salvation and eternal life by Yahweh Elohim the Father, who had given on this point where light and darkness separated, given his only Son dominion over the entirety of what is creation. In fact, it was his Son that even brought the creation into visibility. I've got one last part I think I have a chance to read. Just to give you a little bit more insight, I think it's important that I include this as well. Long ages ago, and this is from Tablet 6, long ages ago the sons of the morning descended, found the world filled with night. There in that past time began the struggle, the age-old battle of darkness and light. Many in that time were so filled with darkness. Now this is talking about the first world age. This is when we're spiritual beings, okay? Many in that time were so filled with darkness that only feebly flamed the light from the night. Some there were masters of darkness who sought to fill all with their darkness. sought to draw others into their night. Fiercely withstood they the masters of brightness. Fiercely fought they from the darkness of night. Sought they ever to tighten the fetters, the chains that bind man to the darkness of night. Used they always the dark magic, brought into man by the power of darkness, magic that enshrouded man's soul with darkness. Banded together in as order, brothers of darkness, they through the ages antagonists, they to the children of men. Walk they always secret and hidden, found yet not found by the children of men. Forever they walked and worked in darkness, hiding from the light in the darkness of night. Silently, secretly used they their power, enslaving and binding the souls of men. Unseen they come, and unseen they go. Man in his ignorance calls them from far below. Dark is the way of the dark brothers. Travel. Dark with the darkness, not of the night. Traveling over earth, they walk through man's dreams. And power have they gained from the darkness around them to call other dwellers from out of their plane in ways that are dark and unseen by man. Into man's mind space reach the dark brothers. Around it they close the veil of their night. There, through its lifetime, that soul dwells in bondage, bound by the fetters of the veil of night. Mighty are they in the forbidden. Forbidden because it is one with the night. I'm going to have to stop here. But I will pick this up because I'm telling you, this information is so deep, so profound, so mind-blowing that just that last passage I read, I could go so deep into what they're talking about. Because basically, you have the Elohim falling away, much as people fell away. But they fell away as well, and it started to get into things that they were not allowed to get into. And so thus we have the Second World Age, chance for incarnation, and thank God our Lord sent his Son into the flesh to show us the way home. So there you have it. I hope, Rand, that answered your two questions. Jazz asked the name of the books that I've been covering this evening. I'm going to tell you about three. I was talking about MU Revealed, and it's written by Tony Earl, New Revealed. The other book that I've been covering is Oahspe, Oahspe. And in conclusion, we ended with the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. So, I appreciate all of you. I love all of you too, and thanks for always tuning in and allowing. Hey, for just so you know, area code 336. I will take calls next time. I promise to start taking more calls from people. I know I never get a chance to do that, but if you'll be patient with me and just tell me in the chat room that you got a question or you'd like to call in, I'll be glad to take any questions, any calls from anybody. Take care, everyone.
A number of things that I've heard from people in the Pentagon, that the buzzword in the secret of secrets in the Pentagon is the Sumerian gods are returning, and that's what they're referring to as that whole area that Peter's
Wow. Can you repeat that again, just in case anybody missed it? The buzzword in
the Pentagon, in the military circles that are in the know about the cover-up here, they kind of, in whispered tones, talk about the return of the Sumerian gods. And they're talking about what we would call aliens or fallen angels returning into the Middle East, into Old Sumer area.
The Anunnaki.
Well, could be.
Under the other ancient names.
Do you think that has anything to do with why we're in a...
Good night, all. God bless.